We got shirts on sale. Express your Evolution, Pokemon, and Shepherd's Delight by buying a Which One starter shirt, Evolution family shirt, and Shepherd's Delight t-shirts and hoodies. Link for these shirts will be in the description below. Mystic Sage is also back, and to kick things off, starting on August 1st, we're going to be uploading 31 days of anime content straight. Go subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. Link for Mystic Sage will be in the description and in the ad card. Technical machines, or TMs for short, are devices that allow trainers to teach their Pokemon certain moves. TMs have existed since Generation 1, and have been in the Pokemon games ever since. TMs have made it easy to teach Pokemon attacks, and can provide each Pokemon with a very distinct moveset as well. It sets it off from your typical vanilla-like Pokemon. TMs are very helpful items, and to show my appreciation for them, I want to give you guys a bunch of facts and trivia about these mysterious items. Hopefully, you learned something today about the history of the TMs, and all the changes they've gone through since the beginning. Some things we're going to be covering are general facts, obviously, TMs that were exclusive to certain generations, and TMs that have been in every single game. I don't want to give too much of what we're going to be covering, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Keep watching to find out. Alright, with that being said, let's get started. Starting off, we have a bunch of really cool facts and trivia about TMs themselves. Firstly, the appearances of TMs. Everyone knows TMs are basically CDs used on Pokemon that teach them moves, but they've actually looked pretty different over the years. The original Ken Sugimori artwork depicted TMs as sort of a training belt of sorts. The TCG from Gen 2 shows it as a box that you put a Pokeball inside of. The Pokemon Origins anime shows it as a floppy disk, a much older form of storage compared to CDs. And finally, the Electric Tail of Pikachu manga shows it as a cube that contains the essence of the move that you open above the Pokemon's head. Very interesting depictions over time, but I can see why they stuck with the simpler CD format. Moving on, we know how TMs worked in different generations, like the fact that up until Generation 5, TMs were single-use items, meaning unless you could buy them or find multiple copies of them in the game, once you've used the TM, it was gone. So you really had to be careful with which Pokemon you gave the move to. Gen 5 has gotten a lot of flack from fans over the years, but I think we can all agree that this was one of the best quality of life improvements ever introduced in the Pokemon series. Moving on, prior to Generation 6, moves learned by TM were able to be passed on from parent to child, as long as the offspring is compatible with the TM, of course. Speaking of compatibility, there are a total of 22 Pokemon that are unable to use TMs unless they can learn those moves by level up. Those Pokemon are Caterpie, Metapod, Weedle, Kakuna, Magikarp, Ditto, Unknown, Wobbuffet, Smeargle, Wurmple, Silcoon, Cascoon, Wynaut, Beldum, Kricketot, Burmy, Combee, Tynamo, Scatterbug, Spupa, Cosmog, and Cosmoem. Now, prior to Gen 6, even if they can learn TM moves via level up, they won't be able to actually use the TM period. So that's definitely really interesting. Now, aside from those 22 Pokemon, there's a pretty decent sized list of TMs that can work with almost any Pokemon as long as they are available in those games. But I want to specifically talk about the moves that can work with all Pokemon aside from those 22. Taking out the moves that have exceptions to them, there are a grand total of 9 TMs that can be used on almost every Pokemon in the games they appear in. Those TMs are Bide, Curse, Endure, Mimic, Natural Gift, Rage, Secret Power, Snore, and Substitute. The first 3 gens had drastic changes to the TM list compared to their predecessors, but interestingly enough, the first 50 TMs of the Gen 4 games match up perfectly with all the TMs available in Generation 3. At this time, the number of TMs had increased to 92, along with 8 HMs for a grand total of 100 teachable moves in the game. This has pretty much been the case in the mainline Pokemon games ever since, with the exception of going every so slightly over this amount in Black and White 2, X and Y, and ORAS, though for some reason, the Let's Go games decided to shrink this number down to 60. TMs have also existed in the Mystery Dungeon games and are still the same TMs for the respective generation they came out in. There are also certain TMs that do not display numbers, such as Vacuum Cut and the original Blue Rescue Team in Red. So now we're going to move on to one of our major sections, being which moves have been in every single Pokemon game. Surprisingly, we've had 9 move stay TMs throughout all 7 generations, and have kept the same TM number throughout all the games, except in Let's Go. You'll see later that those games are a special case when it comes to TMs. So the moves we have are TM06 Toxic, TM14 Blizzard, TM15 Hyper Beam, TM22 Solar Beam, TM25 Thunder, TM26 Earthquake, TM29 Psychic, TM38 Fire Blast, TM44 Rest. Honestly, this list makes a lot of sense as a lot of these are pretty staple parts of the series, whether we're talking in-game playthroughs or competitive movesets. Now, I have another similar section, although this time we'll be going over moves that are almost in every game. The criteria I decided to have for this was that the TM moves could only miss one game, and those TMs are TM17 Protect, TM30 Shadow Ball, and TM36 Sludge Bomb, which were absent in Generation 1. TM13 Ice Beam, TM24 Thunderbolt, and TM33 Reflect, which were absent in Generation 2. TM42/85 Dream Eater, which missed Generation 3. TM28 Dig, which missed Sun and Moon and the Ultra Sun and Moon games. And finally, TM32 Double Team, which was not a team in the Let's Go games. Some of these moves I can understand missing a generation, but it's definitely really odd to see moves like Protect, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Dig, and Double Team miss their TM spots. Now, onto our next major section. We have TMs exclusive to generations. That's pretty straightforward. We go through the different TMs and mark if they've only had one appearance or not. Now, as I said earlier, the Let's Go games are their own special case, so that will be listed separately from the rest of the games in this section. So here we go. Gen 1 had the most, being 24 of its 50 TMs, only ever being TMs in red, green, blue, and yellow. Those moves being Mega Punch, Razor Wind, Whirlwind, Mega Kick, Horn Drill, Body Slam, Takedown, Double Edge, Bubble Beam, Water Gun, Submission, Counter, Rage, Dragon Rage, Fissure, Mimic, Bide, Metronome, Self-Destruct, Egg Bomb, Skull Bash, Soft Boiled, Sky Attack, and Psywave. Next, Gen 2 had Dynamic Punch, Curse, Rollout, Zap Cannon, Sweet Scent, Snore, Icy Wind, Dragon Breath, Mud Slap, Defense Curl, Detect, Fury Cutter, and Nightmare. Gen 3 is actually the only generation to have no exclusive TM moves. This was already kind of mentioned early with the fact that Gen 4 shares its first 50 moves with Generation 3. Gen 4, on the other hand, has a few exclusive moves being Brine, Drain Punch, Silverwind, Recycle, Avalanche, Captivate, and Natural Gift. From here on out, the lists for each gen are a bit smaller, but still have some differences. Gen 5 has Telekinesis and Ally Switch, Gen 6 has Power Up Punch, Gen 7 Brutal Swing, Smart Strike, and Aurora Veil. And finally, the Let's Go games have Helping Hand, Foul Play, Outrage, Play Rough, Superpower, and Mega Horn. Now, while the Let's Go games really did some weird stuff with the TMs, I will say I'm a big fan of them adding moves like Superpower and Mega Horn as TM moves, and hope that they return in Sword and Shield as TMs. Now here's an interesting section. One of the best thing about TMs was the fact you can overwrite them with a different move, if you chose to do so. But HMs were permanent for the most part. But over the years, and especially in Gen 7 games, there are HMs that have actually become TMs. So I figured I could briefly go over that history as well. So Flash was HM05 in Gens 1 through 3, but became a TM in Generation 4. Fly and Surf were HMs too, HM02 being Fly, and HM03 being Surf in Gens 1 through 6, and then later became TM76 and 94 in Generation 7. Waterfall was originally introduced as a signature move in Gen 1 for the Sea King line, and was later made into an HM in Gens 2 through 7, and then HM05 in 5 and 6. It is now TM98 in Generation 7. Rock Smash was originally a team in Gen 2, but then turned into HM06 in 3 and 4. Then back to a team again in Generation 5, as well as X and Y. Then once again in HM and Oras, and is returned to a TM yet again in Pokemon Sun and Moon. However, I am fairly confident it will return as a TM once again once Sword and Shield are released. Lastly, we know there are 100 TMs, but did you know that most of the TMs have been different moves at some point? For example, TM01 was never just Mega Punch. It got changed in later generations to Focus Punch, then later to Hone Claws, etc. In fact, there are a total of 170 moves that have been a TM at one point throughout all the different games. And as Pokemon has evolved throughout the years, a lot of these moves have done so as well, changing in different aspects ranging from their power, accuracy, the way they work, to even the amount of times they can be used. Now, I did do a test recording listing all these changes, however, I found out that would have made this video extremely long if I went through with it, and I wasn't 100% sure if you all would be interested in these changes. So at the end of the video, I'm gonna ask you all, would you guys like to see this video be made? I'll be putting up a poll later for you guys to vote in. Keep in mind that this will take a lot of research and time to put together, and being that I've already been on a bit of a best team hiatus as it is, it'll be a little bit before I post this video. So don't worry, I will definitely be prioritizing best team before I do a heavily researched video. With that being said, you can see that there's a lot more to TMs than meets the eye. It's amazing to me that on the surface, TMs can seem so simple, but they really have an awesome depth to them all that I can really appreciate, and perhaps after this video, you all will too. Well, I think that's everything I think you need to know about TMs and Pokemon. There was a lot of stuff to go over, so I'm hoping that you all enjoyed the video and learned something new. Again, I wish I would have been able to squeeze all the changes TMs have gone through over the years, but this video legit would have been like 30 minutes if I'd done that. So I think it's best this way. It gives me an opportunity to get all your guys' input on the matter and gives these changes a spotlight on their own, so they don't overshadow all the other cool facts listed here today. There's going to be a lot to talk about, so if you guys want to see it, remember to vote in the poll afterwards. Anyways, what do you guys think of this video? What TM facts did you like, and were there any that I missed? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on, that way you never miss an upload. If you want to support me further, consider following my Twitch where I stream a lot of Pokemon content and Nintendo content like shiny hunting, showdown battles, Explorers of Sky, Zelda, Fire Emblem, Smash Bros, Borderlands, you name it, I play it. Want to support me further in Game Club perks? Check out my Patreon. Daniel Leone, Lady Crimson, Pal491, The Lazy Leo, Matthew Young, Awesome Lego, Jarrett Weezosted, and Sodden Grider did, and I want to thank them personally for going above and beyond. It means the world to me. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mr. Gumbrian, and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.